Welcome to another episode of Practice Underwater. If there's ever a practice that really is meant for this show, it was this failing startup that we're going to talk about over the next two episodes. This guy reached out to me, and this was a dentist that I talked to for maybe a while, a couple of years ago. I was trying to get into buy practice. He ended up doing a startup. And pretty much anybody who contacts me, I try to get them to buy practice. So that's not anything unique to this guy. He had good demographic for his practice. He sent me the demo for his startup. It was like 3,000 to 1, so nothing that would make you think that it would fail. He kind of reached out to us and said he opened up and he's just had like severely low new patient flow. And he's in month 5 and has done 1 crown. And, he's probably bleeding between 7 to 10 grand a month with maxed out credit cards, no savings, and no working capital. And so, reading this email, I kind of got really anxious because I guess from my eyes, I'm like, he's maybe a couple months away from losing his practice or something happening. Like this is like a really bad situation. He talked about his staff member that he had some issues with where she's not taking enough ownership. It impressed on me in the email, like how severe the situation was. But one of the first things that jumps out at me from talking to him is how not stressed he is. I thought I would be on the air and this guy might cry or like it might be something really dramatic. And that was not what I got at all.
Yeah, and this is practice underwater, capital U here. This guy is well underwater. There's a 10-foot wave crashing over him. He's like flailing around, but then he's also like super calm about it. Like he's like, just enjoying the ride. He's like thinking he's surfing this wave when in reality it's crashing all over him. So it's a unique interview. I'm really glad we have it. I think you brought a lot of value to him. You brought a lot of reality about his situation and how dire it really is. So I think you guys will really like it.
All right, let's get to the interview.
I have with us today our new mystery doc on practice underwater. And just so you know, everything that you say is totally anonymous. Your voice will be changed, your name will be changed, and nobody's going to know where you are or what you're doing. I think this will be a really good episode. You sent me a large email where you kind of outlined things that are going on with your practice, and I'll just let you take it from here. And let's just see where this goes.
Thanks for having me. Been following you guys for a while. I reached out to you about a year and a half ago, I think it was, when I first decided to give a startup a chance. And, I did some dentographic studies and sent you the info. And you were generous enough to, give me some advice and said that it looked like a pretty good place to start a practice, and kind of thought about maybe purchasing a practice and looked around for a little while and didn't really see anything that excited me. I've always kind of wanted to build something. So I kind of, ran with the startup idea and went to Breakaway. Gosh, I think it was January of 2018. And that really lit a fire under me, and really got me excited about a startup. Didn't quite take every piece of advice that, I was given at Breakaway. As far as being as economical as possible. I kind of went a little overboard on my build out and got a little crazy with some of the expenses and, blew the budget. And it's kind of where I'm at now. We opened day one, and needless to say, since we blew the budget, I had $0 working capital, and we've been open about 4 months. And, luckily the phones are ringing and people are showing up, and people are walking in. We got some pretty good visibility. We're right across the street from a Starbucks, which is great. I figure if Starbucks thinks it's a good place to open, why not? I'm just at the point now, 4 months in, where I'm ready to amp it up a little bit and wish the phones would ring a little bit more. Wish we could get a few more patients in, but without really much of a marketing budget or, much working capital to kind of assist with that, it makes it a little difficult. So I'm just kind of at a spot where I'm getting a little nervous,
So what's making you nervous?
I think my debt load is the biggest thing. Quite a bit of debt after the whole ordeal with the startup loan, student loans. Took out a substantial amount of personal credit card debt to kind of supplement what I didn't get from, the bank, which I felt like I needed to, get all my new, fancy gear and nice equipment, and nothing too crazy. I didn't get a CERAC or a CBCT or anything like that, but, we plumbed nitrous, and we got nice equipment and nice new electric hand pieces, and everything was new. I probably went a little overboard, got a lot of unnecessary lab equipment, and I won't say I got taken advantage of by the equipment reps, but I didn't know any better. I just kind of just signed on the dotted line every time I was sent a piece of paper, and didn't really want to waste too much time thinking about um, what was best and what I needed. And I was just so ready to get it open. It just seemed like such a long process, and um, so yeah, I think just the debt load is the main thing that worries me, and my being able to pay this debt back and not flopping, I guess.
So outline the amount of debt to our listeners, just so they can kind of like see where you're coming from.
Yeah. So, gosh, I remember when I graduated dental school, I thought $260,000 was a lot of debt, but I'm about 260 in student loan debt, which is it's not bad debt at all. That's not what I'm worried about, but I got about 520 from the bank, which my startup loan was about 520. I borrowed about, let's say, 50,000 from Henry Schein to supplement what I couldn't afford with the startup loan, which included X-ray sensors. I didn't even have, at the end of the project, I didn't even have money to pay my IT bill. So I was just scrambling, trying to get some extra cash to cover that. So I borrowed about 50,000 from Henry Schein, 520 for the loan, 260 for my student loans, and I got about 100,000 in personal credit card debt. And about half of that is business credit card, and half of that is personal credit card. So it comes in right below $1 million in total debt that I'm in right now.
So then, are you right now? Is your startup cash flow positive or cash flow negative?
Oh, I wouldn't say we're cash flow positive. Without having a good handle on my numbers, which is kind of why I reached out to you. I wouldn't say we're cash flow positive right now at all. I mean, everything that's coming in is going right back out. I'm don't have I have one employee, which is great. It's not, I don't have too much overhead right now. But it's just the bills are just hitting me like bricks. Anything that comes in, I got to write another check to pay another bill. So yeah.
What is your monthly overhead? Do you have an idea of how much you spend per month to keep the place up?
To keep the place up, just the office. The rent is about, let's just say, 5,200 for the rent, and then I have my one employee. I'm paying her probably between, just depending on how much we're working, I'm paying her between 1,500 and 2,000, twice a month. So let's just say 4,000 to 5,000 a month that I'm paying my employee. Then just utilities, which are a few hundred. So we're probably at about 11 or 12,000 in business debt, and then another maybe 10 in personal overhead. So I need about 20,000 a month to kind of stay above water. Yeah.
And then, are you still working in associateship?
Yeah, I am. I'm working 2 days in my associateship. I'm kind of, I love it and hate it at the same time. I wish I could quit. I wish I could quit and just devote all my time to my startup. But I realize I'd probably be sitting here, twiddling my thumbs a lot of days. But yeah, I'm working 2 days a week right now at my associateship. I've been there for about 5 years, and it's actually a Medicaid pedo practice that I work. I've been for doing that for 6 years, and it's been a great experience, but I'm just ready to move on. I don't have I don't treat mostly kids at my startup. So, I'm just at the point in my career where I'm ready to do something different, and I'm trying to build something completely different than the environment that I've been in for the past 6 years. So it makes it a little different. My wheelhouse of, procedures that I'm able to provide is very limited. It's super basic. Fillings, cleanings, simple extractions. I don't do endo. I don't do any specialty procedures. Um, crowns. But yeah, that's about it. So yeah, I'm working there 2 days a week, and it's able that income is floating me. It's able to help me keep the lights on.
So your revenue right now is kind of, I was checking out your practice plan numbers, is hovering around like $8,000 to $11,000 a month. Is that kind of sound about what you're?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So I guess if I had to ask you, well, what's the biggest thing holding you back from hitting 20, 30 a month, whatever your goals are, so that you can work full time in your startup? What would you think that is?
I mean, my first thought when you ask that question is just more patience. Just I think we're averaging about 20. We between 16 and 20 patients a month in our 4 months that we've been open, and I just feel like if we could just double that, or just get maybe 10 or 15 more patients a month, that would allow me to focus, here full time. So.
And so you have one employee, and so in a typical day, right? How many days a month are you guys open? Like 12, like 3 days a week?
Yeah, we're open 3 days a week. I make myself available on weekends if I have a patient that needs to come in on Saturday. I've come in on Saturdays before. I was actually just here last Friday night seeing a patient after after I left my part-time job. I've come in on Sunday before. So, but I mean, we're open, Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday right now. And then, like I said, I'm available on the weekends if need be. And then I'm at my associateship Wednesday and Friday.
Okay. And so your one employee, so you guys see on average like 1 or 2 patients a day?
Yeah, that sounds about right on average, yeah.
So then she's very much available to be answering the phones, your assistant?
Yes, she is. Yeah, I right now I have my calls are forwarded to our emergency phone, so I'm able to answer that most of the time. I keep it on me at all times, and I answer it whenever it rings. I did have another mistake I think I made starting out was I had a call service answering the phones from day one. Since when I wasn't available, or if we didn't answer after the third or fourth ring, and they were supposed to be answering calls, and I started listening in on the calls, and I just wasn't happy with the quality, how they were talking to the patients. So I canceled that probably about 2 months ago. So I've been answering the phones myself for about 2 months. But yeah, when we're in the office, my assistant usually answers the phone. But when we're closed after hours, usually I do.
So what call service was that?
It was Call Force.
Okay. And you canceled them in what month?
We're about 2 months ago. So I guess it must have been June. Sometime
Okay.
in June, I think. Yeah.
So if you answer 10 calls, how many of those patients schedule?
If they're 10, those 10 calls, if they're inquiring about coming in, I'd
Yeah.
say 8 maybe would actually
Okay.
schedule. So, they're pretty good about coming in. Most of the patients that call, they've been referred by their insurance company, which I'm realizing has been really beneficial. And so they're usually pretty, on board and ready to come in when they call, unless, unless they're asking about Medicaid or something like that, which we don't take right now. So, um, so yeah, for the most part, they're scheduling. The phone doesn't ring often, but when it does ring, I answer it and we get them on the schedule.
Okay. So, what would you say was the biggest reason why you reached out to me?
Well, I think I just wanted some, I know what you guys do, and I just wanted some outside eyes on the practice, to kind of let me know what I'm doing, to kind of get it from a different perspective and just kind of see what you think. Like I said, I don't really have much of a handle on my numbers, other than what we get in the software. To be completely honest with you, I don't really even know how to really delve into the software to check the numbers. I can't even give you an accurate number of how many new patients we have. But one thing I realized, I spoke with a dentist here locally that, kind of gave me some great advice, David Maloli. And, he made me realize that my biggest expense was not having a patient in the chair. So, I was just focused on getting patients in, and probably bit off a little more than I can chew a couple of times, and said yes to some people when I probably shouldn't have. Um, but yeah, I don't really, I reached out, like I said, because I really don't have a handle on my numbers, and I really don't know where to go from here. If
So
that makes sense.
your stress level on a scale of 1 to 10 is about the situation.
Um, it could be worse. I'm trying to stay positive. I'm trying to stay motivated. I've been reading a lot of books here lately, and just really trying to work on my mindset and focus on that. But I'd say my stress level is about a 7.
Okay. And affecting your personal life at all?
No, not really. It has a little bit in the past. But like I said, I've really been focusing on mindset and trying to, um, leave my work stress at home or at work and not bring it home. And I've here recently, I think I've been doing a pretty good job of that, with some good coaching and some good advice from my fiance. She's been really helpful in the process. She was actually working with me this summer, helped me get the practice up and going, and got me set up with some you know uh, systems and whatnot. Got our membership plan up and going. Got me some good documents to show to patients. But she's since returned to school. She's a student. She's actually trying to get into dental school right now. So, um, but yeah, so I've been able to, kind of stay calm and stay positive for the most part about it. I'm super, super motivated for this to work. Call myself relentless, I guess you could say, for lack of a better term. We're going to make it happen. I just don't want to stretch it out 5 years before I get into the, positive. I'd rather it happen sooner rather than later. I'd like to quit my associateship sooner rather than later as well, and focus on my, practice.
So, I mean, by the way I see it, you're kind of burning anywhere between $5,000 and $10,000 a month to keep this thing rolling. Between what you're making associateship and so, where is that money coming from? Is that the credit card debt?
No, the credit cards are tapped out. Yeah, the credit cards are maxed out right now. So it's all coming from my associateship right now, pretty much. My associateship is floating the practice.
And so, personally, are you, I mean, how are you covering your life expenses?
So I recently read a really good book, Profit First, which really kind of got me in the mindset of paying myself first. And so I've been able to pay myself a little bit of money, and I'm setting it aside. Been setting aside money for taxes. Been setting aside a little bit of money for expenses and my bills, credit cards. So that money is coming from, the income that I'm getting from the practice. I'm allocating it into different different areas, and somehow I'm making it work right now.
How many more months, if nothing else gets better, could you sustain your current situation?
As long as my bills are paid, I could do this. I could do this forever. I love it. I could keep going as long as the bills are paid. I can't stay in credit card debt forever, but
So right now you are not, you're able, but your associateship is covering all of your practice bills?
yes.
Okay, so you are not, okay, so you can handle this amount of cash flow negative.
I think so. Until maybe the stress gets the best of me. But like I said, the credit card interest debt is going to continue to pile up. So I need to produce more at some point to get ahead of that.
Before we get back to the episode, I wanted to take a minute and thank Practice by Numbers. Without their help and allowing us to set up the shared practices dashboard, a lot of what we do on Practice Underwater wouldn't be possible. I want to take a minute and highlight a clip from the episode that we did with Rohit, where we highlighted some of the metrics that really matter most.
You cannot look at them just by themselves. You have to look at a few other things together with it. But the most important number any practice right off the bat should look at is patient acceptance. And the difference between treatment acceptance and patient acceptance is treatment acceptance is the amount of dollars that we're accepting. For example, if you presented $100,000 worth of treatment, how much of that has been accepted, meaning scheduled or completed? Okay, so in this particular example, if 100,000 was presented, 55,000 was accepted, or either scheduled or completed. But the second part is 72%, which is the patient acceptance. What this means is that if you presented $100,000 worth of treatment to 100 patients, meaning $1,000 per patient, 72 of those patients scheduled some aspect of that treatment. Looking at patient acceptance is the absolute best way to go.
I hope you guys enjoyed that clip. If you guys are interested in trying out Practice by Numbers and looking at your practice through the Shared Practices dashboard, and there are many other dashboards, you can go to practicebynumbers.com and set up a free trial. I guess the way I'm seeing it is, I think that, how long until your bank loan kicks in?
The bank loan is kicked in. We're interest only right now. I'm paying interest only on my bank loan, but it kicked in. We closed the loan back in June. So I'm paying back my bank loan right now, monthly.
And how much do you make at your associateship in a given month?
Right now, working 2 days a week. In a month, I'm probably making $10,000 a month.
Wow, good for you. Okay, so that's where it starts to make sense, because I guess initially looking at your numbers, I'm thinking there's no way 2 days a week you're making enough to sustain, probably what is a $8,000 to $10,000 a month, negative cash flow.
Right.
But I think that is doing a big favor.
Yeah, I've been there for 6 years. I'm a pretty high producer. So they compensate me well.
And that's a Medicaid practice?
Yes.
Okay. And your vision is away from Medicaid?
It is. I still think I want to see Medicaid kids. I'm in the process right now of getting my office credentialed to see kids with Medicaid, because that's what I'm comfortable doing. It's good production. You can make a lot. You can do well seeing Medicaid kids just doing prophies and sealants and stainless steel crowns, and it goes quick. You can get it done quick if you have a well-behaved kid. I don't do anything too crazy, or I wouldn't do anything too crazy at my office. But the office that I'm at, it's a pretty busy practice. We get in probably anywhere from 100 to 150 patients on a busy day, and I may see 75 of those myself.
Wow. Yeah, I guess for me, looking at your situation and talking to you, I'm very impressed by your stress level being a 7. I would be at like a 15. And I guess that's just me, but I'm proud of you. I think it's, My guess is this wasn't the way you had envisioned it.
No, man. I've been listening to podcasts forever. I thought we were going to have 100 patients our first month. I've been listening to, tired of hearing all the success stories and everybody's just killing it. And I made $1 million my first year. And, I don't think that's going to happen with me. I think I'm at the point where I got to stop listening to all these podcasts and all these, amazing success stories and just start focusing on, what I'm able to do. Cause it's not coming to fruition like I thought it would.
Well, obviously, I've had those people on air, and we have a podcast, and I think part of the reason why we're doing it this way is, anonymous person, change your voice, change your name. Nobody's going to know who you are, so that we can be honest.
Right.
And I think the honesty is what's missing, and so I want you to not let those stories get to you, because a lot of the times there's more to the story, and then they only tell you the highlights. It's like watching the highlights and thinking you just saw the whole game. You didn't. You just saw the best parts of it. And so
Right.
don't let that crap get to you.
Oh man, yeah, I hear all the stories of we're producing 100,000 a month, and 20,000 a month. It was a bad month. Goodness, I'd love to produce 20,000 in a month. Like you said, whatever my numbers said. Skating lucky if I could make 10 here. So gosh, I can't imagine ever producing 100,000 in a month.
I guess the first thing I thought of is, why are you not taking Medicaid? But it seems like you kind of already answered that.
Yeah, I'm trying. Like I said, I'm trying to get the ball rolling with that. I was actually just on the phone with them yesterday, and it's a process. They if every I is not dotted and every T is not crossed on the application, they put it on hold for a couple of weeks and they kick it back to you. So I think I just about have it nipped in the bud and know what I need to submit to get it approved. So I'm hoping, by the end of the month, I'll be credentialed with Medicaid and be able to start getting some Medicaid kids in here and, get some more production from that end.
Yeah, I mean, your biggest problem right now is that in a given month, you're seeing like 15 people.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing one patient a day, I don't care what happens in that appointment, it's not gonna be a good recipe for success.
Right.
You definitely need more people.
Yeah.
And also, I think, do you have any marketing budget? So like if I told you that, $3,000 a month in marketing, would you say no way?
No way. I couldn't do it right now. Just couldn't. I'd love to, but I couldn't. I'm doing a little bit of AdWords right now, and all I can scrape up is about $250. They're charging me more to manage it than that I'm able to contribute to the AdWord budget. So I'd
So
love to.
Are you paying $250 a month for AdWords management?
No, I'm paying close to $500 for AdWords management. I'm putting in about $250 as a budget for AdWords right now, which isn't much at all. It's just not even scraping the surface.
Okay, so I want you to cancel that.
Okay.
And then there's $500 a month, right?
Okay.
Because AdWords, if you're paying, you're probably paying like 80 something, 90 something dollars for, a phone call. And right now we are in, I don't want to call it panic mode, but we are in ass on fire, need patients in the chair now.
Oh yeah.
And so we need to do, I hate to say it, the sleaziest, whatever it takes to get people in the door. So have you done a Groupon yet?
No, I haven't.
That's a free way of getting patients. You have a lot of time in your schedule. Anybody in the chair is better than nobody in the chair.
Okay.
And so I would definitely get yourself a Groupon. Living Social for all I care. I mean, anything. Then, you're contacting Medicaid. That $500 a month that you saved from the AdWords campaign, I would do something with that money that will buy bagels and take them somewhere and introduce yourself as a dentist who's seeing patients. Or could you block off a half day a week to go do external marketing yourself?
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
So block off a half day a week. you and your assistant, you take bagels to whatever business and you introduce yourself with some business cards and you talk about maybe your in-house plan. Do you have an in-house membership plan?
We do.
Yeah. So you could talk about that. And I mean, $500 a month is like, I don't know, 50 dozen donuts.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my guess is that you would get much more than 3 patients if you took 50 dozen donuts around local businesses in your area a month. So, you know, I'm not like a ground marketing expert, but I guess my biggest thing for you would be ass on fire. Like, we need people in. Anybody who has teeth or people that don't have teeth. You know, anybody needs to be in that chair.
Mm-hmm.
And I like your mindset's positive, and I don't want to change that. I also want you to have that major sense of urgency.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it just, you sound like really calm, and that's nice. You know, I like the calmness, but I kind of want to kick the calmness aside for like the next few months. You know,
Okay.
you know, ass on fire. This doesn't seem sustainable for like the next 6 months.
Right.
I like to ask people, you know, if nothing changes, can you stay in this situation forever?
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't feel like this is a situation that can be stayed in forever. You're very, very fortunate in the fact that you make, you know, if you were to work that associateship 5 days a week, that's like a $25,000 a month associateship.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
those don't happen very often to many people. So the fact that you have this like really profitable 2 days a week where you're making 10 grand a month is probably the biggest reason why, you know, you're still in business.
Mm-hmm.
My other comment was, and this is, I think it's 1B, you know, 1A is anything, you know, getting patients in the door. 1B, so if a patient comes in and they need a crown,
Mm-hmm.
do you feel like your lack of patience makes you apprehensive to not want to upset the patient that you have in your chair? So you might not treatment plan the way that you would normally?
Yeah, and it did. It bit me. It did when I first opened. I think I probably let maybe 6 or 7 crowns walk out the door. And I just did big buildups just because, for whatever reason, didn't feel comfortable. Wanted to, get it done that day. I've only sold and delivered 1 crown since I've been open, which went really well. He was actually a cash paying patient, so that was a great day. But yeah, I did. I do kind of have that mindset a little bit. Obviously, I want people to like me, and I don't want to upset anyone. I'm trying to protect my reputation, and so yeah, I have been a little hesitant. Will admit that. Have been a little hesitant to present crowns when I probably should have. So I've let a few people walk out of the door when I could have probably sold crowns.
Okay. And so let's go through that situation that you're afraid of, right? Patient walks in and let's just say they have like, I mean, I don't know what you treat. Do you treat a cracked amalgam that's asymptomatic?
It's not something I'm used to doing. I'm trying to get to that point. Trying to learn more about that and, get to that point where I'm comfortable doing that. But it's not something, like I said, I've been in the PO world. We put a stainless steel crown on everything, and so I do see quite a bit of cracked amalgams, and it's not in my comfort zone to present that as a problem right now.
Sure. And I'm not, the purpose of the show is not for me to influence the way you diagnose. I mean, that's your comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny that, I'm just going to make a joke, but you put a stainless steel crown on everything in pedo, and then in adult world, you don't put a crown on anything. It's
True,
like you couldn't be more opposite.
Oh, it's true.
But
True, yeah.
I guess, so I want you to do a couple things, right?
Okay.
You kind of have 2 problems where you don't have any patience, right? I think we're working on that. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I could talk about that for like an hour, but I'm not going to.
Okay.
The other thing I want you to do is you have to understand that when a patient walks into your door, for you right now, you have to maximize that opportunity, because I mean, you need to. And the way you do that is not by not diagnosing what you see. The way you do that is by diagnosing everything that you see. And I'm not saying to diagnose stuff you don't see. I'm just saying everything you see, you tell the patient. And that's a rule I think you should follow regardless of how far along you are. But especially when you're seeing, not enough patients, it's imperative that you do as much treatment as they need, as opposed to, because the reality is, you don't know what they're going to say. That's not, but I guess I want to kind of go through that situation with you. So patient comes in, has a tooth that you feel needs a crown. And let's just say this is one of the times where instead of not telling them that they need a crown, you're going to tell them that they need the crown. So what is the worst case scenario?
Worst case scenario is they say no. And
Okay.
we just do a giant filling, MODBL filling on it.
So the worst case scenario is that they say no. So that's like the thing you're most afraid of. And what does it mean if they say no? Like, why is that bad?
Well, I guess in my mind, I think if they say no to a crown, if I present a crown and they say no to the crown, I might not get any production out of them. But if I just present a big filling, like it's not a big deal, maybe we can get $400 or $500 for the big filling, and I can get it done that day, and that's money in the bank that day.
Okay.
I guess that's just my mindset at the time.
So your biggest fear is that they say no, and then you're losing any production. So you would rather have no production. Am I saying that properly?
Well, I think if I present a crown, so I'll avoid presenting the crown in an effort to get the filling, which is some production, versus no production. They say no to the crown.
Yeah, so you're kind of doing the mentality of like, bird in the hand is better than two in the bush type thing. Okay. So what is your fee for a filling? Like a build up? Like what's the price difference that you are presenting?
We're talking $1,400 for a crown as opposed to $400 for a large filling.
Okay.
3 or 4 surface filling.
So what would you guess so I have your numbers here, so you're not going to lie to me, or you might not know them, but so if you present a filling to your patient, 10 fillings to your patients, how many of them are accepted?
If I present 10 fillings, maybe 5.
Ding, ding, ding. Yeah.
Really?
You're exactly 50%.
Okay.
Now 10 crowns.
1. I don't think I've presented 10 crowns. 2.
So of restorative major, you've presented $10,000 and 20% of it has been accepted. So are you an MBA fan? Yeah. So like there's this thing called adjusted field goal percentage or effective field goal percentage, where you take a 3-pointer is worth more than a 2. And so while you might make it a smaller percentage of the time, it's actually, a better shot because it's worth that extra point. So if we're playing basketball here, your filling is worth 2 points, your crown is worth 6. You make your filling 50% of the time, you make your crown 20% of the time. So effective field goal percentage wise, every time you pitch a filling, let's call that 1 point. Every time you pitch a crown, you're looking at like 1.3 points. So there's really not much of a difference. There's actually a little bit more on the crown side, but I think that whole idea that I'm just going to pitch something because I don't think they're going to say yes to this, I think you need to have the opposite mentality where you pitch them you shoot the 6-point shot, and then if it misses, you go get your rebound and try to lay it in for 2. You know what I mean? So you tell them, hey, we need a crown on this tooth. And then the patient's like, I can't afford it. Don't want to do it, whatever. If it sounds like they're not going to do it, maybe then you can slide in, and don't do this long term. But right now, if you're worried about keeping the lights on and you need anything, just tell them, okay, well, I'm willing to put a temporary filling on the tooth just to hold you over, because I don't want you leaving without fixing that problem.
Yeah,
Does that sound like a fair place where we can? Because if I just tell you pitch crowns and don't do anything with the buildup, then you're probably not going to listen to me. But if I give you that fail safe of, if it sounds like it's not going well, you can swoop in and offer that filling.
Right.
But I want you to offer everybody that option and wait to hear no. So wait till you miss the shot until you get your rebound. Don't say, I will do the crown for you, or if you don't want that, I can do a filling.
Right. I think
Because
that's probably what I've been doing a lot. I
But is that
present
what's?
all options at once.
Yeah, don't.
Yeah.
In your mouth, what would you do? And if that was your mom in the chair, what would you do? That's what your patients are coming to you for. They're coming to you to treat them like family. And so, I think it's hard for you sometimes because you're so scarce, right? You're living in this world of scarcity that it's very, very challenging to not be afraid of letting those opportunities go. But it's like the opposite thing is happening. You're not presenting enough stuff, and that's also hurting you, but that's not your main problem. That's like an accessory issue. Your main problem is that you don't have enough people.
Right.
Problem 1B is that of the people you have, you're very timid and you're not producing what you can. So I think an issue that's going to come up for you as you transition to adult dentition is not knowing what to treat and what not to treat. And that treatment philosophy that you seem to have so solid in pedo. I mean, you're a heavy pedo producer, right? Like, they're not paying you 40%. You're hauling ass over there. And I think you have that confidence about you where you tell a patient what they need and it's what they need. And do you feel like you have that same confidence with adults?
Oh, no, not at all. Not at all.
Yeah. So I like to give my clients this exercise where I have them write down every single thing that they see. And I pick this up from my coach, Justin Short, where every single thing that they see, you write down what you do about it. So like for me, when I walk into an exam, I do every exam the exact same way. I start at this tooth, I go around to, I start at 15, I go around to 2, go down to 31 and down to 18. I look at the occlusals, then I have them bite, I look at buckles, and every time I'm looking at certain things on my checklist. And so I want you to write down every single thing that you treat. So like a patient comes in with wear, what are you doing?
Well, personally, I haven't, I don't really treat it. I just let them know that they have wear, and as long as I don't see decay, it's a great day, and we close up shop. Yeah.
Yeah. So so like let's use this as an example, right? This is a perfect example. So a patient comes in with wear in my office. And I don't want any dentist emailing me, blasting me for my treatment philosophy. But if I see areas where dentin is exposed from wear, I ask them, are you willing to wear a night guard? And if they're willing to wear a night guard, then I will fill those areas with composite so that they don't continue to wear their dentin. And, I'll do small occlusal fillings or incisals or whatever it is to hold their tooth structure in place. And so long as they're wearing that night guard, then, that's sort of the agreement that we have. And so for me, I might see my wear cases, could be $1,000 to $2,000, of production that I never prepped a tooth.
So you build up every tooth and then put a night guard on top of that.
I mean, that's what I feel is best. That's what I would want done in my mouth. So that's what I do to other people.
Right.
But I'm just saying that that's an example of how patients love that, because then their teeth don't look yellow, and that's a very simple thing. That's like one example of many where I think your lack of experience in this space is affecting you.
No, I
And
agree.
so, like I want you to think of like really spend time like a cracked amalgam, right? An a mesial MO amalgam with a crack on the distal marginal ridge that's stained. What are you doing? And don't tell me now. Like that's not for you to know right now. That's for you to, you have a lot of free time at the office, right? Try to spend some of that time learning about diagnosis on adults. So why do some people treat these things? Why do some people not? And then find out whatever you want to do. Because at the end of the day, it's not, look, you're in a situation where you need patience, like, and you need to produce. But the reality is that doesn't mean you do things that you don't believe in. Never cross that line. But at the same time, you need to establish a very predictable, solid treatment planning philosophy. So when I see this, I do that. When I see this, I do that. When I see this, I don't treat it. And you need to be very solid in that. So there's a lot of studies that show like certain things, and like Spear Education has a lot of good stuff on their like free blogs on their website where they talk about diagnosis and how they treat certain things and why. And I think you need to go back and look at those types of things. So start with that list. Like you see wear, you see cracked amalgams, you see abfractions, you see, occlusal staining. I think you're solid with occlusal decay. I mean, you treat pedo, so I think you have a good feel for that. But, how are you treating open crown margins? Like all of these little things that you see in adults that you're not sure of if you should treat or not, start researching it and get solid, because the patient can tell if you're not sure. And the patient can also tell if, you just maybe aren't feeling confident. So I think you need to get some information to start feeling confident.
Right. And I think that might be another reason why I've been so hesitant to treatment plan, because I see this stuff and I'm aware that I'm not going to be confident in presenting it. So in an effort to avoid looking like I'm trying to oversell or just sell treatment just to pay the bills, I just don't even, I don't bother. If I don't see active decay, I make a point, make it a point and point out this, this light contact on this crown or the wear, and just kind of put the idea in their head, but I don't really force a treatment plan right now.
So is your assistant in the room with you whenever
Yes.
you, okay. So one thing I'd like you to do is I'd like you to go out of your comfort zone for a second, right? Have a conversation with a patient. And when in doubt, I'm always honest. So for me, I always fall back on my honesty. I took over a practice from seller, and, if there was times where I treatment plan something different than the seller, like that's the thing that everybody's afraid of. I sort of set the patient up. I'm like, look, I'm just going to be straight with you. They didn't treatment plan that, and I do. And here's why. Different dentists have different philosophies, and that's mine. So, I understand it's weird, but this is what we're finding, and that's why I do it. So if you kind of hold, stand in your truth and know that you're being honest, then just go out of your comfort zone once. And then after the patient leaves, ask your assistant, what did you think of that? I went out of my comfort zone. I said this. How did that come off to you? And if she said, well, that comes off as pretty salesy, then, think about the way you're saying it. But my guess is she won't say that. She'll say, no, I think that was really nice. I like the way you said that, and then that'll give you that confidence that, because every time you go out of your comfort zone, you need to have that feedback from somebody you trust. So would you trust your assistant on judging how you are doing?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I mean, can't really imagine her being too brutally honest if she doesn't really agree with me, but for the most part, I trust her.
Okay. So let's talk about that one next. I want to talk about your staff of one, but we're going to end part one of this, and then we'll pick up part two with, talking about your staff.
All right, Matt. So I was doing this interview, and I was just like on the edge of my seat here, thinking about what are you going to say about it. So I'm interested to hear what you have to say.
Listen, I'm a very calm person. I like keeping my composure. I think like no matter how bad the scenario gets at the office or in life, I'm always that guy who's steady. It's, his hand's not shaking. He's not too emotional. I think that's part of my secret sauce. So I love that mindset. In this situation, I don't love it at all. I think there absolutely needs to be more of a fire under this guy. He's going down a really dangerous path, and it doesn't hurt so bad right now because he's got that associate job paying the bills. Like if that goes away, or if anything happens, like that's the only reason his practice is even still opening, having his doors being open. So I feel like he really came into the startup with a complete lack of plan. You know, his inability to even diagnose and treat the adult dentition with it. You know, he's opening a hundreds of thousands startup without that kind of basic knowledge and mindset ready. It's just baffling to me. So I think there's a lot wrong with it. I'm trying not to roast him too hard because I think he'll come out of it. I mean, I think he knows what he has to do, but I just think everything's got to change.
Yeah, I think, I very much expected to walk into a different interview than I did. I was like, is this the same guy that I almost thought I had the wrong person. You know, it's like, he's like, things are a little bit slower than I planned. And I'm like, dude, you're bleeding like 10 grand a month. Like, what's going on? You know, and it wasn't until I learned about that. I was trying to figure out why he's not freaking out. Like, there has to be something else here. And once I learned about that 2-day a week, 10 grand a month associate job, like, it started to make sense, you know, where he's like dollar for dollar, just personal life and expenses, like barely making it by. But, you know, without that associate position, and I think that was, you know, unfortunately now he doesn't have that associate position. So like he very much has his ass on fire, but should have been on fire this whole time. Like for me, why is that not happening? That was very frustrating for me. It was like, I think a big part of what I was trying to do in the interview is to make this guy see it the way I do, where like, this is a really big problem. Like, why are we not acknowledging that? You know,
yeah, and like, why is there zero commitment to marketing? He's a startup with no marketing. Like, what's happening here?
Yeah,
he mentioned that he went to Breakaway, the startup seminar, and you feel like he just didn't come away with anything.
No, I mean, going to Breakaway and then not doing a shit ton of marketing when you open up is like really dumb. You know, I mean, and like, I like this guy. I'm going to try to help him out, but definitely, you know, like that's not a smart decision. You know, I mean, like you need people there. And, you know, it's just, that was a very difficult interview for me because I hate marketing problems. Like that to me is very frustrating because that's the thing that's the hardest to change as a coach is how many new patients somebody gets. That is the furthest thing from my ability to impact. You know, I cannot help that guy with that. And that's really his biggest problem. And that's the hardest part, is just like, if this guy had patience, he would probably still need us, but he wouldn't be in the situation that he's in.
Yeah, I mean, he totally needs us as far as like the diagnosing part. Like there's a lot that can be improved. You know, he's starting at such a low base level of diagnosis, 1 crown in 4 months, you know, even with only a couple, like 1 or 2 patients when they're open. So there's a ton that can be changed there. But yeah, like you said, the marketing, that is his biggest issue. Like he's got to do anything he can to get patients in the door. I love that you mentioned Groupon. That's got to be implemented right now. You know, that's a no budget way to get 9-10 patients in the door easy.
Yeah, and you know, like for me, it was painful to say that. You know, Matt and I have differing views on Groupon. Matt loves Groupon. I don't love Groupon.
I'm actually off Groupon now, actually. Just
really?
kind of, yes.
I think one of the things I try to pride myself as a coach is I try to have a toolbox of tools, and you use some of them in certain situations and not others. You know, and like this is a typical Groupon patient. Like I'd rather see 100 Groupon patients versus 0 patients. Like, you know what I mean? Like anything is better than nothing. Like you need something now. And so, you know, in that case, Groupon made sense. But, you know, I just don't. It just like what I hope shows is I wasn't talking about this guy about a group practice, right? Like this is the first interview that I didn't talk to somebody into a group practice. You know, so it's just like I hope that the variety of skills that Matt and I have should come through in these different situations. And this is definitely one of them.
Yeah, your versatility really showed through here. Put that bias aside. You know, I thought you were just kind of this group practice robot, but our listeners really, you know, really saw that you're not that.
Yeah.
So good on you. Yeah, but like you said, it's like everything is tailored to the person. You know, it's all very person and situation specific. Like you said, we pull from different tools that we have available, and for him, whatever it is to get patients in the door is what he needs right now.
Yeah. And what did you think about my suggestion to drop his AdWords and spend that $500 on more ground marketing?
For sure. I would rather him be knocking on doors of businesses in the area. I love how you suggested taking a half day, going with his assistant around town. Like, that's really what he needs to get his face out there and name out there. Like, Google AdWords is just not going to give him the immediate ROI of like, I hate the word guerrilla marketing, but that's what he needs to do.
Yeah, definitely. And, I think, he's like, well, I have no money to market. It's like the chicken and the egg. You don't have any money because you don't have patients, but you don't have any money to pay for patients. So like, we're going to be stuck in this like bleeding cash flow situation. So we have to get out of it. And so I think for me, the only way I could kind of get him on board with spending some money on marketing was to save money somewhere else. And the $500 a month that he's spending on, probably 3 patients, if that, Google AdWords is that you're about that. So,
and I would honestly look to take out a little bit more in a loan to put to marketing too.
Yeah, I mean, I would love that. I just don't know if that's something that he can feasibly do, because he's maxed out on he has a startup loan that's maxed out. He has a Henry Schein loan that's maxed out. All of his credit cards are maxed out. Like this, it's like a really stressful, like I wish I had talked to this guy like 6 months ago, not today, because it could have been a totally different situation.
Well, imagine if you talked 6 months from now, the doors could have been shut in his practice. And they probably would have been, had he been going, had he continued going.
For sure, especially after losing his job, doors shut in 6 months, no doubt, if nothing changes. Yeah.
Well, I need you personally to keep following up with this guy, because now I'm invested. It's like a reality TV show that like, it was such a train wreck the first episode, and it sets up this like whole season of like what's going to happen. And now I need to know what happens.
Well, it's funny that, so I did actually offer him to help him, just because like for me, it didn't feel good to just leave this guy in this situation. Just like, okay, bye, see you next time, see you whenever I see you. So yeah, I mean, for me, it was something that I actively am going to help him. And then, hope our goal is that he can get to the point where he can become a client, he can afford to become a client and then grow his practice even more. So, this is not the last we'll hear of. His fake name will be Jim. That's something that I think he said in the second part. So, hopefully we'll hear about Jim again, and, hopefully in a much different situation.
Yeah, I want to see a completely different Jim. I want to see like James next time we see him. I'm a successful practice owner now.
Yeah, or I make money in my practice,
Yeah,
that'd be awesome. Yeah, I'd really be happy for him. All right, well, we'll go to part 2. In part 2, I think there's a lot of trying to go through his, I think, diagnosis pearls and mindset stuff that we talk about, because I think this is where, if Matt was doing this interview, it would really showcase his strengths next week. So I'm excited to do that outro with him. I'll see you guys next week on Practice Underwater.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Practice Underwater. We'll see you guys next week.
If you're interested in one-on-one coaching with either Dr. George Hariri or Dr. Matt Garino, our contact emails are in the show notes.
And if you're interested in being on Practice Underwater as a guest, where we could look at your practice anonymously, you can go ahead and contact the email in the show notes and follow those directions to get on the show. Thanks, and we'll see you guys next week on Practice Underwater.